I was able to have 3 months with him where I got to see him 3 times a week. It's all about building the muscle memory. Pretty much wherever there's a Jollibee is where we went.
So guys, welcome to the Locker Room Talk Show, and we are here with renowned Phil-American player development coach, Cristian Gopez. Welcome, coach. Thank you for being here, despite of me being late.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, from A to Z. So how did you become a renowned player development coach?
Well, it all started with the love of the game. Growing up as a kid, my mom put me in a recreation development program at a park and rec in Los Angeles. My family grew up in Los Angeles off of Crenshaw and Olympic. So we pretty much grew up in an environment where there was a lot of great athletes, growing up. And so, I could recall going across the street every day at the church where it had a basketball court, where my mom always knew where we was at. So every day I would actually go play basketball and pretty much fell in love with the game, watching the Showtime with Lakers Showtime, Byron Scott to Eldon Campbell to, Kobe Bryant as he got into the Lakers. And then at some point down the road, with developing and seeing that I could see myself playing college, I had an opportunity to go from public school to a private school where I got an opportunity to go play college basketball. And so I was able to play college basketball here in the States.
Where at?
I went to Cal State Maritime, which is in Vallejo, California.
Oh, okay, up north.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Up north, yep.
I just want to know because I saw the picture too. You look good, coach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and so with that, I got an opportunity to play with my cousin. There was back then the NBA Summer Pro League was in Long Beach. I'm not too sure if you guys knew about that, but
okay.
So the NBA Summer League was always in Long Beach, and they had a free agency division. So they had the NBA division and also a free agency division. So that was a division that my cousin Alex and I got to play in. And pretty much we were introduced to Philippine basketball. And at that time, there was a few agents that were out here basically just asking us if we were interested in playing back home. So I actually went first. So I got to play with, two teams out in the Philippines in the PBL. That was with Toyota Otis and also Granny Goose, which is a potato chips company.
Oh, nice.
Toyota Otis was that?
Granny Goose.
Toyota Otis was that with Coach Louis Alas?
Lou Alas, the whole that was with the Latran kids.
Yeah, Latran, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that's a rival. No, we don't want to say.
And so just that opportunity, and then got to eventually see an opportunity to play in the PBA, where it wasn't the best experience for any player that would obviously go back home, but the experience that I got to be a practice player and be part of the whole experience, that's something that I can't take away from my just the steps that I took. So after 4 years of being there, then that's when I decided to come back home and pursue coaching and the educator. So when I got back home, I became an educator. I did PE out in the city of Compton. So that was another great experience, a good stepping stone to, just find good talent and be able to see what basketball was really about from an adult perspective versus a child perspective. So that's when Edge Basketball started. Alex and I started Edge Basketball. He obviously was in the Philippines, going into his career. We did a basketball camp under Edge Basketball in the Philippines at ISM, which is in Makati. But then when 2007, that's when Edge Basketball was born. And basically we started that till now, So, but yeah, falling in love with the game was the real stepping stone of what it really took me to where I am today. So I'm pretty happy to where I am at in terms of the development of what we've done with Edge basketball. Obviously, like I was sharing earlier, we produce about 24, 25 college players that are now, all part of the growth of what we've been doing in these past 14, 15 years now. So years later, Alex and I again came up with an idea, which is Fil-Am Nation. And that pretty much came together literally last year of November.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that was just recent.
Pretty new.
just recently. Yeah, just recently. And the idea kind of came together after him and I came, together after a spiritual retreat that we went and did together. And, he kind of shared to me about his life with God and, what he's done to be closer to God and acknowledge him. And so I started doing the same thing. And pretty much he shared to me the positivity of what could happen if you put God first. And sure enough, putting God first, the opportunities kind of unfolded. And, it brought us more opportunities to create something for our Filipino community, and which I'm really proud of. Kasi nga, pinanganak ako sa Filipinas, pero lumaki lang ako sa States. So I always tell people that the heart of being Filipino is still in me, So with that, I can't say enough when it comes to, just being proud and really trying to help more Filipinos along the way, for the future.
That's good.
Yeah. So earlier before we actually got on, we were talking a little bit about PacRim. So I was kind of just wondering, in your story there, born in the Philippines, grew up in the States, played basketball mainly in the States first, and then got introduced to the Filipino basketball. Where does PacRim fall into that story? I was
PacRim kind of came in when we were, because back then it was still Fil-Am Basketball League.
Yes.
Fil-Am Basketball League, which was held in Eagle Rock.
Yes, exactly.
Or Franklin.
Franklin, yes.
Yeah. And so I know Dick Padron was the main
guy. Yeah, Dick Padron, yes.
Dick Padron was the main guy. And then, PacRim didn't come until, I would say, right after high school.
Okay.
So once high school kind of came around, I started noticing PacRim basketball leagues. And so that's where, I was with Showtime with Coach Albert. So it was me, Alex, my brother, Mark Kagiwa, his brother.
Oh, wait a minute. I must have played against you then.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was even a kid by the name of James. There was a kid named James. He was really good. Nico was pretty good. So there's a lot of good talent. Talent.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, there was no more Fil-Am Basketball League anymore, So and I later learned that SIPA was the support of the Fil-Am leagues, and based on a nonprofit that was funded by the SIPA organization, which was a good thing.
Okay.
So
interesting. Okay.
Oh, that's good that you're doing all these things to help out the Filipino community, especially here in LA. Yeah, too bad I never get the chance to play back then.
Yeah, you know what? That's to me, that's the most important part of being Filipino. What a lot of people don't know is that our culture really embraces the game, and I would say we're the only culture that has a Filipino basketball league around the world. So.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I've ever met a Filipino guy that doesn't play basketball, really. Right? Almost everyone Filipino that I know that play basketball.
I know in Dubai, in the UK, I know in Europe, Australia, there's always after work night, let's play basketball.
Yeah.
Well, just like we were talking earlier too, before we got started here, is in the Philippines, even if there's a flood or typhoon, right? And they're still playing basketball, so it doesn't really stop.
Yeah, it's a nonstop sport for all of us,
Yes. So I know with you kind of mentioned earlier Edge basketball versus Fil-Am basketball. Can you kind of go into a little bit how you got involved with because I know you're trying to promote this event that's coming up, right, in a
Yes.
couple of weeks. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. First, I want to just share to you guys about what Fil-Am Nation is.
Okay. Very good.
Fil-Am Nation basically is a platform that obviously we created so that we can give exposure for athletes and also the educational component so that more Filipino families can better understand what that process looks like when wanting to play back home in the Philippines. Of course, there's a lot of factor that comes into play when it comes to paperwork. And so I know a lot of families, especially a lot of Filipino American families, they don't understand what that process looks like. And so what we've done is that we've worked with the Philippine consulate here in Los Angeles, as well as other consulates around the US, to be able to help us create a workshop during our events so that they can get the information that they need in regards to the checklist, so based on your birth certificate, if your mom and dad became an American citizen at a certain time, the application, creating that photo, everything that you need to become a Filipino citizen. So we want to provide that information, that infrastructure, so that people are more aware of what it takes to go back home. Because the experience that I've heard over the years, including the years when I went, is that, people go back home and no one tells them what information is needed so that they can get their dual citizenship. Yeah. No one, gives them the information of what the steps are to even look into the colleges or look into the pros. So we want to be that platform where we can educate and provide more information as to what it means to even play back home. However, it doesn't stop there. Fil-Am Nation obviously was created to not only give exposure, but to also help and assist with giving exposure so that we can see more Filipinos on the mainstream of basketball and other sports. I think utilizing basketball to create the vehicle for the organization to drive it is what's gonna create more followers to see, hey, they're doing something really positive for the community, Because as you can see, basketball is an obsession, so everybody will kind of, follow something that has to do with basketball. But as you can see on the platform, we've been really exposing now more athletes other than just basketball, volleyball, soccer, baseball, softball, taekwondo, everything that can eventually at some point help the national level in the Philippines, and if we can create that community, then I believe that I've done something in my life that can make a change to help more Filipinos.
Oh, that's a good thing. And then I also did I did some research, and then we were talking, but not only the Philippines, obviously the Philippines is the main focus, but I also saw you were like in Canada. You have a Fil-Am Canada.
Yeah, Fil-Am Nation. So let me share you also the business structure. The business structure of our organization is that we have what's called Fil-Am Nation. So Fil-Am Nation is the mother company of everything else. So obviously the number one company under Fil-Am is Fil-Am Nation, and then we have Fil-Am Nation, we have Fil-Can Nation, which is Fil Canadian, we have Fil Aussie Nation, which is Fil Australian, we have Fil UK Nation, we have Fil New Zealand Nation, we have Fil Italian Nation, Fil Dubai Nation, Fil German Nation, and so far, pretty much wherever there's a Jollibee, is where we.
So you guys are worldwide.
It should be a Jollibee Nation then. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, or Phil United Nations then.
There you go.
Yeah.
As long as you got that Phil there, Phil,
Yeah.
whatever country,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So with our structure, the whole idea is to create events, and those events we want to create basketball events, baseball events, football. Soccer, volleyball, and with those regional camp events, that's when we start recognizing the top 25 athletes for every sport, and then from there we can take them to what's called the summit. The summit will be the main event towards the end of the year, which will typically be at the end of July and the first week of August. And those athletes will come all together under one roof, whether you're from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, and you just come, and now you start competing with one another. And then what we want to do is we want to invite all the Filipino coaches to all our events, to that summit, as well as the American coaches that are college coaches, so that now these athletes can get the opportunity to be looked at by the coaches.
Yeah.
One thing that we try to educate the college coaches back home in the Philippines is they have to do their job. They have to recruit. And by recruiting, you have to know the players and you have to know the parents. Just like here in the States, that's exactly what they do, right?
Yep.
They know the players, know the parents, and they do it because they know them because of the American platform that has been created here in the United States. So there's already platforms, multiple platforms for these college coaches to be able to go to an event, sit down for 4 to 8 hours and watch these athletes perform, and then be able to create a checklist of all the top athletes, so that when they go back to their office, to whatever state they're from, they can now start emailing, they can text, they can, create a invitation where they can meet together. And to me, that's how recruiting should be. It shouldn't ever be about, hey, Kuya, do you know somebody in the in California that's a good player? Can you send me a good player? That's what it's been like in the past. These coaches are expecting more from their contacts and their friends or former players, that are in the States, to ask if they see or even heard of any good players. And so now it doesn't really, you can't really validate how good that player really is unless you actually go and see them, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what we want to do is we want to create an event where they come once a year to the event, and they can see every player from Australia, from New Zealand, from Canada, from the US, and so forth. So now,
go
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so that event that you're kind of referring to, is that the event that's happening in 2 weeks? Is that
yes,
pretty much similar event? Okay,
correct. That's correct. So in 2 weeks we have. So I came up with the idea of where basically, we want to. With what's happening right now in the PBA, there's not a whole lot of ongoing events that could be done, right? Especially with the PBA draft happening. So it's hard for these managers and these coaches to see what these players actually look like, at this point. Because as a coach, you want to know if these players are in shape, if they're finding ways to bulk up, to get stronger, So for us, because it's a private event, it'll be easier for us to actually put the event together here in the US. And obviously it's up to the athlete and the families to decide whether or not they want to be part of the event. We just want to be able to offer it and still be precaution with the whole COVID situation. Yes. And make sure, we do our temperature check, we sanitize all the basketballs. We ask for these athletes to do a COVID testing 3 days prior, so that at least now as they come in, it's almost like a similar bubble, but not to the extent of us spending so much money, for them. So
Okay. So at this event you're gonna have Fil-Am players and coaches as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna have the pro athletes, which is the PBA. We're gonna have a PBA division, a pro division, and then we're gonna have a college division. So the pro division is gonna include current PBA players that are back in town, wanting to get some extra runs, and then they're going to be playing against players that are looking to go into the draft, and then the college division are players that currently plays in the UAP or NCAA, and they're going to be playing against players that are wanting to go back home to the Philippines to play college basketball. So now these coaches in the Philippines, whether they're college coaches or a PBA coach or a manager, they can watch two sections of athletes going after each other,
Nice. So can we have Mike do some 3-point drills before the
if he likes to do that, absolutely.
He might get drafted.
3-point specialist. So go ahead, Mike.
So Coach, take us through the mind of a mad scientist for a while. I'm always me and Noel were talking about player development. And
Yes.
I've always somehow during a conversation I've criticized the Lakers, and we're just gonna jump on that question maybe a little bit later. Lakers penchant for player development, their philosophy, but take us through the mindset of a player development coach. The development of being a mad scientist. How do you assess a player? From start to finish, but through. Being a player development coach, every I think you would agree with me is that not everybody is a finished product.
Right.
So how do you assess from being at the low level and being to from this level to that level? How do you go about your
development stage? Well, I think in any athlete, every parent should allow and be able to find and trust a coach that has the experience of development, and because every parent wants to be involved with their child's career, and a lot of times as a development trainer, you go through the obstacles of parents thinking that they know it all. So if a parent can better understand,
stage father or stage mother, right?
Yeah. So as a parent, you have to be able to find a good trainer and a good coach that could mentor and that could guide you for the best interest of your development, for your child's development. So I'll give you a perfect example with Onyeka. Onyeka, he actually came to us at a very young age. And, the mom was, a parent who worked hard every night. And so she didn't really care, nor did she, she didn't expect so much out of her son. The only thing that she wanted from her son was to have fun and just learn the game, and at a very young age, when you look at the comparison of Onyeka and the way Kobe Bryant developed Gigi, it was all about the fundamentals, right? At a young age, basically understanding the footwork, the simple ball handling, and the mindset to have fun with the process. There's also a maturity factor that comes into play when developing a child. So as a coach and as a trainer, you have to recognize how mature that child is at their age. If they're not mature enough, let's say at a 9-10-year-old, then you got to try to find a way where it's still fun. Because if you start making it too serious, then they start, pushing away. They start pushing back towards you. So there's always going to be that friction when the child is not as mature. Now, let's just say from 10 years old to 12 years old, the child starts maturing a little more. Now, not only have you created the development side of it, of fundamentals of footwork and ball handling and shooting, now you can start pushing a little more. You can start pushing the kid at a faster pace, in a sense of game speed situation, the mental focus, because when a kid has matured a little more, then they should have that. They should have the mental focus. They should be able to come into a gym and be able to understand that, okay, I'm coming here to get better, not to just enjoy a game of basketball. I'm here to make sure that I understand what it means to develop my ball handling skills, what it means to develop my shooting skills, and furthermore. So as they get to about high school, now your hopes is that, you know, the mind is already there, the maturity is there, and there's a conversation between the player and the coach where there can be a dialogue, right? So, because when you're teaching, that information has to process. And just like in education, right? What happens from K through fifth or K through six? Typically, the child is typically just more listening, right? Whereas in 7th, 8th grade through high school, now teachers are expecting for you to be more open-minded and, you know, have a conversation where you're thinking outside the box. So just like in sports or just like in basketball, that development is going to boil down to maturity. Maturity, to me, I think is the biggest factor in any development, you know, just like in education. If the kid is mature enough to understand what it means to go to school, have your backpack on you so that you don't forget all your books and your notebook, then that means they're ready to learn. But if they're not mature enough, of course, they're going to forget their notebook, they're going to forget their homework and so forth. So when you apply that into sports, it's the same mentality. Every player should have a basketball with them every time. There should be no player going to a gym and not having a basketball. That tells me you're not ready to go. And you see that a lot in a lot of players. Sometimes they don't have their basketballs. Sometimes they forget their shoes, or they forget a pair of socks. And,
right.
you know, and so when it comes to maturity, I think, you know, based on my experience with Onyeka, and same thing that goes for Kobe Bryant with Gigi, he was able to develop a sense of maturity and knowing that the focus will always be there. And so with Onyeka, a part of that maturity also comes with the circle of people you surround yourself with. You know, I think with Onyeka, we only had him for a small period from his 8th grade to 14 years old before high school, and he was surrounded by some other great coaches with Compton Magic. The relationship I had with Compton Magic gave him the opportunity and the platform to be able to travel around the U.S., but also to get the highest level of training. Now that he was at the high school level, you knew that the maturity was there. So he was always going to be professional about what he was creating for himself, whether it be on or off the court. So I think that's a big part of the development stage. You know, repetition is a big piece also to development. I think, you know, one thing I learned from Kobe, and I've been sharing to you guys about Kobe because I was able to have 3 months with him where I got to see him 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good.
So to be able to learn from what he shared to me, it's all about building the muscle memory. You know, he the stuff that he did, he just kept doing over and over. So whatever he did on Monday, he'll come back on Tuesday. Guess what? He'll do the same exact thing. What he did on Tuesday, guess what? He'll go back Wednesday and do the same exact thing. And the more he found it for it to become more natural and second nature, then he can move on to the next move, you know. And that's all he did for his game, is that it all boiled down to repetition. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the course of the years, even when I had Onyeka, to keep doing the same thing over and over. Because once you do things over and over, it just becomes second nature, you know? And again, we talk about maturity, right? Maturity will eventually get you to the level where you want to, as long as you have a better understanding of all the things that's being taught to you. So to me, I think that's the science to it, is developing the repetition. Michael Jordan did it. when you look at those two, Michael and Kobe, man, I mean, they're just two players that, you know, no one will ever forget, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's what the development stage will definitely take for any athlete, you know, and everybody's different.
Yeah. And that's actually true because, you know, I used to play and now, you know, I don't play as much, but kind of what you said, you've done it so many times for so long, it's just second nature. Second nature. When you do a hook shot right now, I mean, the form is still there. I mean, I'm not a young anymore, but the form is still there. So yeah,
absolutely. And people don't realize, you know, if you've been playing basketball for so long, especially pros, even as they get older, right, to about 70, 80, 90, guess what? They still have the same stroke.
Still there, yeah.
Because of all the practices, you know. But again, the repetition and the maturity factor is a combination of what makes a player successful down the road, you know.
Yeah. That's why Mike can hit all those shots.
Well, just in case for people who are not in the know, Onyeka is Onyeka Okongwu, who was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks 6th overall in the NBA 2020 draft. So,
and I watched him at just to add on, I watched him at USC, and what I noticed about him, and maybe Coach Chris, you can speak to this a little bit, is his energy. He's like high energy guy. He goes after everything, rebound, floor, you know, diving on the floor, you name it. So
the beauty thing about Onyeka is that he's just the pedigree of a winner, you know, the pedigree of a professional, you know. And the reason behind all that is the humbleness of what his parents taught him to be, you know. Don't ever forget where you came from, you know, because if you do, then your mind starts going all over the place. But I think the maturity level of Onyeka was also a big part of that was his brother. You know, when his brother was passed away due to a skateboard accident, I think it really opened his eyes, the importance of life, you know. And I think a lot of people tend to kind of forget to reflect on life, on the importance of what it means to even just live and be happy, right? And I think Onyeka was super grateful to know the opportunities that was given to him. And based on that being gratefulness, you know, he embraced that, and he said, you know what, for whatever is given to me, I'm just gonna go ahead and continue to make it even better. And so that all came with his energy, that all came with his professionalism, that all came with him being a good teammate to his team members, and being coachable, you know, from his coaches that obviously had the experience of helping players to get to the NBA. So with all that said, it you know, that's why I always tell people, I don't ever take full credit of his development to where he's at today. I take some partial credit, but at the end of it, in any coach's business, they know it's the player that puts the work in, not the coach, it's the players. So same thing goes for Alex or myself. You know, we can always be grateful for all our coaches, but people don't know that, you know, that we as individuals are the ones that's actually putting the work in, you know. And that goes for what we've done with Edge Basketball as well as what Fil-Am Nation. Nobody's handing me anything to make Fil-Am Nation grow. It's the behind the scenes. It's the 2, 3 o'clock in the morning answering text messages and staying up late so that Alice and I can talk about the planning of what we need to do to execute the next plan, you know.
Okay, very good.
Well, yes, sir. Just wanted to thank our sponsors. This talk show is made possible by Top Digital Studio, a digital marketing agency. Just go to topdigitalstudio.com to learn more about how video creatives are done right. And of course, you can catch these episodes of the show every Friday at 4 p.m. at myvalits.com. And lastly, just show us some love. So you just click subscribe and like that button just to show us some love. So, Coach, so Chino Hills. So far, Chino Hills has been a hotbed lately. It's been a center of attraction for most recruitment, either a pros or in the college level. So why so far Chino Hills?
You know what? I think, when I look outside, I think it's super peaceful out here. You get a peace of mind to do when you want to do something. There's not a lot of distraction, and I think that's the biggest key in any athlete's success is being distracted by so much. And here in Chino Hills, everything closes at 10. There's not a whole lot of late night bars or things to do. So it's either you're gonna be home and work on your game at the back of your yard, or you're gonna play video games, or vice versa. So I think being in a community where it's peaceful and it's quiet, it gives you time to think about the execution aspect of what you want to accomplish down the road. And I think the Ball family has done that. I know Eli, that's at LMU, that came out of Chino Hills, has done that. Onyeka has done that. I mean, there's quite a handful of athletes that I know of that really has that focus to be able to do the things that they want to, because there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to recreation. As a young grassroots child, you're able to go to get signed up by swimming, baseball, basketball, whatever sport you want to get your child in. So the resources are here in the city of Chino Hills. So and at the same time, like I said, when I look outside, it just gives you a peace of mind knowing that there's not a lot of distraction.
Yeah, actually, I played out there one time. Somebody invited me, and I noticed. So we played in this gym, but I noticed there's a lot of high school and college athletes that work out there.
Yes.
That they're already playing in their respective schools, but they still go out there and work out.
Absolutely.
In their gym. So that was very interesting. That I saw that.
Yeah, and the good thing about it too, from what I know, there's also a lot of recovery PT places where athletes can get recovery. And it's a lot cheaper out here to, you don't have to spend the big bucks if you were in like the LA County, because obviously LA County, you got to shell out hundreds of dollars. Whereas here, I think it's a little more affordable based on it being San Bernardino County versus LA County. So I think with the resources and the availability of things to be able to work out on your game and also recover from your game, I think it helps more athletes out here.
Yeah, and then in the prior episode we were talking about with Mike mentioning Chino Hills, LaMelo Ball and now Onyeka. So 2 out of the top 10 draft tees in the NBA were from
Chino Hills.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
it's starting to become a hotbed.
Yeah. I think Eli Scott is next. Eli Scott, he's at LMU.
Okay.
So I think he's the next one as well. So there's definitely quite a handful, that could definitely, still come out of Chino Hills.
I see. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Coach, for being here.
Absolutely.
And, we really appreciate your time.
Yes, very much so.
Talking to us about your projects, your future endeavors, what you mean so much to the Filipino community, and and in behalf of Noel Art, Top Digital Studio, we'd like to thank you for your time. It was great to see you, Coach.
Absolutely.
And this is the Locker Room Talk Show. Have a fun day, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Coach.
Before we go, Mike, before you came on, Coach actually invited us to his event. So you're gonna get to do your play-by-play.
I think it'll be great to have you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then what we'll do too is that we'll promote your talk show that you guys will be there on.
All right, cool.
Oh, great. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, we'll promote each other. There you go.
Yeah.
So
we'll keep in touch. So,
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
let's keep the channels open.
Yes.
Or you were gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like how it's gonna be like. Is this just gonna be one court?
No, we're gonna have 3 courts.
Three courts playing at the same time. Okay.
Yeah, I would actually put you guys between the PBA division and also
Okay.
pro division and also the college division. So that way you guys can turn around and
Oh, okay.
we can put you-
yeah.
or we can put you to see both courts at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright,
because I was talking earlier, like we mentioned earlier, we did a local NCAA UAP college alumni, and we had 3 courts too, right, Art?
Yeah.
In that event,
That's 3 courts.
kind of going back and forth between the middle court, which is the most convenient one, and one of the side courts.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
I'm looking forward to having you guys.
Yeah, we will definitely make time.
Yes.
Do it. Let's do it. And you know, whatever you guys need on my end, that way we can set you guys up. We'll actually have a banner. If you guys have a banner, we can put it behind you guys, or we can provide one for you with our logo stuff.
Okay. Cool.
That way people can see exactly, you know, the talk show and that you guys
Yeah.
are there hosting it, you know.
All right. Cool. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys
Coach.
so much.
Everybody.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All
No
right.
problem.